You are alive. You are alive. I'm alive. It's alive. Okay, stop. How many movies? That was like 3 different movies in one, in like 10 seconds. Hello, how are we? So today we are talking about turning trauma into triumph. I like this topic. And we will do weekly trainings. I'm Carolyn Carpenter with Hollywood Gatekeepers. Sure you can see your comments. We are streaming live into YouTube and in Facebook, and we also do Instagram, and we have all kinds of things. We just do tons of trainings. We have our master class that is now closed. We are done for that for this year, and we're just going to continue to do weekly training. So if you're just discovering us, every single week we pop on in and we pick a topic. Today, it might not seem, you're like, what does that have to do with trauma and triumph and reading? Like, well, how do those work? One of the reasons we do topics like this is that we really want to help you. We want to work together. All of us need this. Like, we want to work together to get our lives as even keeled and full of contentment as possible. Because when you operate, hey Doug, when you operate from that space of contentment and understanding of life and that kind of thing, you will be a better writer and you'll be a way better reader. Like, because you won't be coming at coverages being already, hey Carol, being already like, angst up. We want you to be as calm and cool and, kind of content as possible, so that when you go to cover someone's screenplay, you're coming from a very clear, kind of calm place. You're not having a bad day and taking it out on that writer. So we really want to get you to this place. Also, when you work as a reader, you work with a lot of big personalities. You work with a lot of different people. There's a lot that goes on. Like, there's this very active kind of job. And so we really want to get you in a place to where you feel centered for the most part, and you're able to operate from that place. You'll be able to know what you want. Only by knowing what you want can you create the life that you want. You have to actually know what it is you're after, and then we build from there. So this topic, and I talk about this topic in a couple of different ways. And so I have a handout. So if you go to hollywoodgatekeepers.com/free look, that's where all of our free content lives, or everything. You can go to there and you'll find out all about us. And then that makes it so that, free look. This training will be in there. So as soon as I'm done with the video, then we upload it and we'll put it in there too. And it has a handout just kind of help you walk through it. But one of the things that hang on, I'm looking for the handout right now. Sorry. One of the things that I like to talk about are things that help you regulate yourself so that you can then really, come from that centered place. And we really double down on this inside of our Insider Track. We actually have a coach that's coming in, one of my coaches who helps me learn how to do that. He's going to come in and share some really great tips tomorrow. I'm really excited about that. So if you're in the Insider Track, you're going to have that treat tomorrow. So I wanted to take you through just 5 quick steps. 5, my lord. 5 quick steps. Of what can you do if you have anxiety. I debated about trauma to triumph, anxiety to action. It's all kind of the same. But how can you take, moments of struggle and use them to build a life that you want? And so I have 5 quick steps that you can do. No, not all of them are anywhere, but the first one is definitely you can do anywhere to kind of help you regulate and realize the control that you actually have when things are feeling out of control. So the first one is breathe. And I know it's like, breathe. It's like, we don't take this breathing thing. We don't really think about how huge it is. And people always go, take a deep breath, quit holding your breath. Hold my breath in fear. There's so many things when you think about breathing. Every time we talk about breathing, it makes me want to just take deep breaths. Remind yourself, find a way to remind yourself to breathe. So I put it in my password. That's my password to things sometimes. It's like breathe and smile, or breathe and my, whatever. It's but breathe is often in there. And so because I'm always reminding myself to breathe, they have all kinds of really great apps that ring a little bell to help yourself to breathe. By breathing, by taking really deep breaths, it's not like, a big woo-woo thing. It's like total science. It's brain science. If you breathe we are mammals, and when we are in fight or flight, we have shallow breathing. When we're up, when you get uptight, you can think about how your breath is. When you think about maybe going on a stage, you can feel this shallow breath. As was a ballerina, we learned how to breathe from the back so that you wouldn't see a chest heaving. You learned how to expand your back and breathe from the back like little fishies. And so I've learned I can control my breath from being a ballerina in major ways. So ballerinas, you very rarely, you don't see them well, if you do, don't get me started. That's not considered part, it's that's not, at least in the training that I had, that wasn't how we learned it, because ballerinas are just all supposed to look so easy, right? And so we've learned how to control our breath. The same is true if you're injured. You want to send breath to that area. And that might sound a little strange, but you have oxygen in your body, in your bloodstream. And when you do that, your blood flows, and it flows, and the blood going to an injured area is what helps heal it. So it's that's what a bruise is, the blood it's getting in there, whatever. So it's you want to make sure that you're breathing. I'm not a doctor. I think that's what a bruise. I think there's a few reasons for bruise, but it is the flow of blood, right? And it's if something gets burst or whatever, but it's just being able to, you can feel it when you do it. And you can feel when you get a head rush, they talk about standing on your head, and you can feel when the blood drains down, it feels really good. When you get your blood circulating, it's so important. Obviously, the circulation is really important, can cause all kinds of trouble. So that breathing, by deep breathing, you are causing the blood to circulate more. And that's going to help you just on a scientific level. Not Emily, not that I'm a scientist, clearly, but I can feel what happens in my body when I breathe. I got that. And I can see it in other people too. And I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I've never heard anybody say, oh, that breathing thing, that doesn't work. I've never heard anybody say that. It's always and we do it naturally when you cry. When you cry, when you have emotion, your breath gets all screwy, right? Because you're your body's not regulated. And then usually when you have a big thing, you take a deep breath at the end, right? That's just a natural thing that we do. When you watch animals, when they're in fight or flight, dogs panting, it's you can see, it's really obvious. And yet we just kind of live with blinders on that one. So that's number one, just breathe. Number two is try to unplug. If you are full of anxiety, as much as these conversations hopefully are helpful, when you're done here, go unplug and do something. Think to yourself, what would grandma do? Or what would grandpa do? Or depending on how old are you, what would great grandpa do? Something before there was any kind of even television, electronic. What did they do? What did they do for fun? What did they do? When they were feeling anxiety, what did they do? So it's do a puzzle, or go for a walk, or dance around, or have a conversation, or, do something that's unplugged just for a bit. Get your eyes and head away from screens for a while and just unplug and do that. It really, really can energize for sure. And then that also goes back to the breathing thing. Just try to spend at least some time. If you can get fresh air, even better. For sure. Try to get outside if you can. Nature is amazing. And my son was talking about a friend of his that says, when I'm in the city, because there's, he lives in the country and then come in the city, he said it's my thoughts are bouncing off of everything because it's so active. And when I can get out into the country, my thoughts can be more free. It's an interesting concept, right? And I have a friend who lives in Africa, and she said, boy, that African sky is no joke. She's you get there, and she said, you have this sense of expansion, just because the sky is so amazing. And so she went there to do a summer internship 21 years ago. She never came back. It was she just fell in love with it. So it's that expansion, I think, is really important. And if you can get out in nature, that's, or at least go outside, sit on a balcony or a porch or something, if you can. Definitely, I think that's better, but try to unplug for sure. And then you've got your secret weapon. We talk about this all the time. What is your secret weapon? You can write. You're writers. Yes, in through your nose and out through your mouth. So good, right? Definitely makes a huge difference. There's all kinds of breath work you can do. I could do a whole thing on breath work, but just the basic of breathing, slowing that breath down. And I didn't mention, because when you regulate and you slow your breath down, it tells your central nervous system that you're safe. Because when you're, in a cave and being chased by tigers or whatever, it's when you were safe, you were breathing calmly, So by actually forcing yourself to breathe calmly, your nervous system doesn't know the difference. It's like, oh, we're safe. We can relax now. So breath, back to breath again. It's so important. So, but you're a writer, so you can write, get it out, write letters, write whatever, bang on that keyboard, whatever it might be, get your iPad, write on your phone, write whatever, just write, get it out, write a monologue, whatever, get it out. You can throw it away, you can burn it, you can do it. It doesn't have to be for anyone. You don't have to mail it. Like, you can write, but just, you can write about someone that you love and talk about how much you hate them right now. It's fine. It's like that kind of thing. If you don't do that, then it's all staying in there. And it's like, just get it out. You don't want to be carrying that around. And you have that ability as writers. So you're way ahead of the game in terms of like the ability just to write. So, and it doesn't even matter like writing, what it looks like or feels like, but the fact that you are a writer just means you're used to that thing of being able to write or journal or whatever. Like, we have some kind of way that we do it, but write scenes, write whatever it might be, write music, just get it out of you. It's really, really important. And then I forgot the next one. Number 4. Oh, it's kind of interesting. Cry. Just cry. I was thinking about getting it out on the page. Let's just emotion. It's okay. You'll get through it. Like, typically the emotion isn't something that will kill you. Typically emotion. It's not letting the emotion go that gets where people get anxiety, where heart attacks happen because you get anxiety and you're holding it back. Instead of just crying, getting it out, go scream into a pillow, beat a pillow, whatever. Just get that angst, that anger out of you. Like, find a way. So you can go, put headphones in and go for a walk and pretend you're having a conversation and argue with someone, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. You're creative. You're super creative. Like, just figure out a way to get that emotion out. And because it really is like, I think we're afraid of it. And I think that ends up like, we don't want to let that emotion out. And then that's what makes you sick and in pain and neck, because you're just holding all that tension in. So being able to just kind of move your body around, being able to scream into a pillow, being able to whatever it might be, but it really does make a difference. Like, it's amazing how cathartic that is. And, just have a good ugly cry every once in a while. Let it out. It's fine. It's just emotion. And we were just on Instagram. I told a story about Courage. It is Courage Under Fire. With Meg Ryan has a great scene where she's an army captain and she starts crying, and one of her subordinates is like, "Oh, is the captain crying?" And he's like, Matt Damon, he's making fun of her. And she just goes, "Shut up. It's just tension." Like, it doesn't even faze her. Like, "Yeah, I'm crying. Of course I'm crying. This is super intense." Like, she's so in touch with the crying. Doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're weak or you're not a man. For you men out there, like, that don't cry. It's like, I absolutely love it when men are in touch with that. It's like, we're all human and so easy to let that go. So let it out. It's not the emotion that's going to be the problem. It's the repression of the emotion that will cause a problem. So being able to do that, and then that can lead to visualizing. So you're breathing. Now you're breathing. You're reminding yourself to breathe, whatever it takes, right? You're unplugging every once in a while. You're writing. You're getting that angst on the page by writing. You're also emoting, allowing emotions, realizing, oh, it's not the emotion. It's that, whatever it is that's holding me back. Because getting those thoughts out, those thoughts are causing the emotion. And then you'll start to hear what those thoughts are, so you can start dealing with them. And then the final thing is to visualize, because your brain doesn't know the difference when you're visualizing. We often visualize terrible things that are going to happen. We have the what if, but what if that, and what if that, and I'm afraid of this, and I'm afraid of that. And so we use our imagination, which you have in droves. If you're here, you are a super creative person. So we use that imagination to hold us back, instead of always using that imagination to think about where we want to be. Like, always imagining yourself with the job and the money and the partner and the health and the whatever you want, whatever's in your life, whatever it is you want for your life, constantly imagine it and really feel into what it feels like. What does it feel like when you imagine yourself there? What is that feeling? Is it contentment, excitement, happiness, joy? What is that feeling? And like, really lean into that feeling and experience the feeling, whether you have the thing or not. Experience. There's nothing stopping you from experiencing the feeling, because for the most part, we want things because of the feeling that they're going to give us. So if there's something that we want, because why? Ask yourself why. I want this thing. Why? Because why? Because why? Like a child, constantly, why? Why? And you'll get to whatever the feeling is of why you want that thing. And you can feel that feeling. You can drum that thing up anytime. Like you have the will and the control to be able to do that. Think the thought that brings it up. And then by the more you get in touch with that and the more you feel that feeling, the more your brain starts to go, oh, that's what we're supposed to be feeling. Okay, I'm going to head towards that. It's like you train your brain. It's a science thing. It's not even like a, think and it will appear. It's like, no, it just trains you to head in a certain direction. It's kind of like how many of you have had a conversation where you're like, oh, we were just talking about that the other day and now I'm talking about it again. Oh, I really decided I wanted that red dress and now I'm seeing red dresses everywhere, whatever. It's like your brain, we have so much coming at us that our brains are really efficient at pulling only the things that we want to see. So we see the things we want to see. And so your brain, when you decide, oh, things are this way, you think someone is a certain way, most likely they're going to be that way to you because you've decided that's what you're going to see, regardless of how someone else might see that same behavior in someone. You look for things and your brain naturally pulls the things to validate your opinion. And so we constantly reevaluate and evaluate and find things to support where we already are. So if you're in a place that you don't like and you're constantly struggling against that place, most likely you're looking for evidence to back that view up. Start to shift that and decide, here's the view that I want, and I'm going to visualize that as often as possible. Really think about it, imagine it, feel it, so that your brain can start to go, oh, this is what we're optimizing for. Okay, let's do that. It will cooperate if you really believe it. And that goes into a whole identity shift, which is a different conversation. But I hope these are kind of 5 steps, because this is like building a muscle. And it's kind of like, when you go to a gym or you build up a muscle, that muscle is actually tearing first. That's the first step, is you go and you work it out and it's sore. That's why it's sore. It's got tears. And then what happens? It builds back stronger. This is the same thing. You're building those muscles so that when trauma does happen, because crappy things happen all the time, it's like life is beautiful, life is messy, life is awful, life is wonderful. And when bad things happen, if you're able to do these kind of regulatory things, that trauma, you'll have that muscle a little more built up. And it's nice to do it intentionally. And so that you're not just building that muscle from trauma after, I survived the trauma. It's like to be a little more intentional about, oh, here we go. Okay, well, I can handle this. I handled that. This is really nothing compared to that. So it is like when we have these traumatic experiences, being able to really regulate ourselves going forward is really going to make it so then you can handle anything that comes your way. It's like, it's all just life. It's all just how it is. It's like we just find our way to regulate yourself through it, build that muscle, and then any trauma can become a triumph because you'll just realize that it's possible to get through things. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it makes it, we really want to get you to a place to where you're feeling pretty centered, you're feeling pretty good, and then you can write really spoken coverage because you won't be taking out how you feel on the screenplay. So I hope that makes sense, and we will be back next week. Repetition is key. That Joy, she's really smart. That's why she has the Right Mind Coach, because she's smart that way. You got to keep at it. It really is. Form it into a habit for sure. So you can go to HollywoodGatekeepers.com/free look, and you'll find this training as well as many others. And check it out. We have tons of different trainings and handouts and things you can download, and it's just really fun. So we're having a great time. We're so grateful that you're here, and we will see you next week.